Welcome again to Rain Country, the weekly television journal of the people, places, and activities of Southeast Alaska. Greetings, I'm Scott Foster. Anyone who has traveled in Southeast probably has their own favorite location. If a vote were held, my guess is the title Most Scenic would go to a small fishing village. In the summer, its harbors are filled with fishing boats, many of them just passing through, while others call the cove home for the summer. The population is not determined, but there are 60 to 70 registered voters. In the winter, the population drops down to a dozen diehards. It's located on the northern tip of Chichagof Island, at the end of a series of coves sheltered from the wind and the waves of the North Pacific.
Elfin Cove has no roads into it. Boardwalks replace streets. There's no ferry service. In fact, the only public transportation to and from the cove are the mail planes that land there on floats. Most of the people that live in a place like Elfin Cove live there for one of two reasons, if not both: to be close to the fishing grounds or to get away from governmental and other influences of the bigger cities.
I grew up in Juneau, and I lived there for quite a few years. I went to grade school there and high school and a few years after that, and I finally found that I didn't know anybody there, even though I had a lot of friends, but it had changed so much since I had been there, that, and the value system had changed so much, and you know, it was, people were getting ripped off and crime was happening and people were getting raped, and those kind of things never happened when I was growing up there. And one day I just turned around and said, I don't want to live here anymore. It's gotten too bad for me. And that's when I decided to look for another place to live. And Juneau's a mini, ugly, big city. And I don't care to be there more than a brief period.
But even a tiny place like Elfin Cove changes. The most noticeable change in recent years is the influx of the sport charter businesses. Like communities everywhere, the introduction of something new often causes frictions.
We have commercial fishing drags that are certain areas that commercial boats fish, and there are certain rules that you run those drags by, just from historical precedent, and usually for good reasons. And these guys come up here and they run them the wrong way and they get in your way and they cause nothing but hassles, and I think they should be more respectful of the historical ways that have been established.
Resentment of a new element in a community is often sparked by a general dislike of progress and growth.
I like to see progress, but I don't like to see it come in Elfin Cove. I don't like to see it spoiled by other people coming in. I don't like to see too much stuff go on, like telephones coming in here. I don't like that.
When I visited the Cove, the only telephone in town was a community phone, but an area-wide phone system was just being installed.
I like the idea. I think it's a good idea. You don't have to run downtown through this deep snow to answer a telephone in the wintertime.
We're going to get a telephone. God forbid, but I don't see why not. You got to make calls occasionally, and whether you got to go downtown and use a public telephone and wait in line and all this other hassle, or just simply pick it up off your wall, it doesn't make much difference. You know, you're plugged into the telephone circuit. When you need spare parts, you got to call. You can't write letters. You're going to lose 2 weeks if you write a letter. So yeah, we're going to get a telephone.
Ironically, Roy Clements, who didn't want telephones, is the first in town to have TV. Roy, a 35-year resident of the Cove, installed his own satellite dish.
In my time, I never had to watch TV. I never got to see shows or anything because I lived out here and I lived in the sticks. I lived in the Taku River where we had nothing. And I lived there until 1939. So I didn't get to see too much. And then just the last few years, I got the chance to see TV.
Roy installed his dish only after an opportunity for the Cove to receive state-funded television was rejected through a vote at a town meeting.
With community television, you go to visit someone at their house, they're watching TV. Where now, you go to visit someone at their house, you sit down and talk to them, there's no television going. And it really affects the lifestyle of the people.
The community meeting that controlled the fate of television in the Cove is one of two forums that make up its municipal government. The other is the meetings of the Elfin Cove Nonprofit Corporation. There is no mayor and no city council. Whoever shows up at the meetings gets to discuss and vote on the issues and events that affect their lives.
Ferries, hydro, school building, community building, sewerage, all of the things that involve a community. Now there's a lot of concern about float houses. And what are we going to do about the boat harbor and keeping the things clean?
The Cove's nonprofit corporation was created to receive and distribute state oil revenue sharing money. 85% of that money has gone towards exploring the feasibility of hydropower for the town, and the rest has been dedicated to the maintenance of existing facilities such as docks and boardwalks. Greg Howe, elected chairman of the board, lives on an island a number of miles from the Cove.
I think probably the reason I was elected as the chairman is because of that, because I live away from the community and I don't get involved in the little things that always seem to happen in small communities with cabin fever type things, you know, where people get nitpicky with each other over things that are really of no concern. And because I don't live there and I don't get involved in those things, I get along well with everybody. My position as the chairman of the corporation is merely as somebody to direct the meetings, and hopefully everybody will contribute just as much as the next person, you know, and that all the decisions we make will be, you know, at least the majority of the people.
One of the major improvements the corporation members are presently dealing with is a legislatively funded community center. The old Swanson's Elfin Cove store and the property it sits on has been purchased, and when plans are finalized, the store will be torn down to make way for the new building.
There's a lot of people that felt it was you know, why should we get this much money to build this huge expensive building, you know? But on the other hand, you know, there's no place for our kids to go play inside or anything in the wintertime, and there's no place for the community to get together, and I think it's an important thing to have. We now have a community building, and with the library and medical supplies, it's full. You know, if you have a community meeting and everybody shows up, there's no room. And we have no school right now, and as things stand, there's not enough children for the state to supply a school and a teacher. But if we have a community building that this school system can lease a room from, they may give us a teacher.
There are other things that will have to be faced in the coming years. The state ferries will bring an influx of transients. A sewage system will have to be installed. Garbage will become a concern. They may even begin building roads. And then there are the inevitable property taxes.
I believe in that when a person builds his home and tears out the stumps and everything, it's his home, he should keep it. That's his home. There shouldn't be any taxes put on our homes. I don't know, that's my belief. We pay enough taxes in our life without having to pay taxes on our home.
Just like taxes, change is inevitable. The people of the Cove, like all the people of Southeast, have to take it as it comes. But through personal involvement in their community meetings, they hope to shape the future to fit their lifestyles. As they work to do so, they can breathe a little easier knowing that, for now at least, time is on their side.
It's true that Elfin Cove is getting more and more of the amenities of civilization, but it's coming very slowly. And even though we have 3 fishing lodges for sports fishermen that are replacing the commercial fishermen, it isn't something that's going to happen overnight. It's happening very slowly. And I think we're going to be able to preserve our way of life quite a bit longer here at Elfin Cove than what's happening in the major communities of Southeast.